Today is a cold Tuesday, January 16th, and you are watching the warm SBA Today. I am Paul Long, Assistant Vice President of SBA Lending with Gisa Credit Union located in Washington State, and I am joined by
Tanya Mazurik, Colorado's SBA Manager and Producing Loan Officer with Midwest Regional Bank. And Paul, I think we should say the hot morning show versus the warm.
I like that. Good, good. Well, hey, so we're 16 days into this year. We all started with a big fat goose egg at the beginning of this. So how's the pipeline? Are you noticing kind of things picking up, slowing down? What are you seeing, Tanya?
I think it's pretty frozen right now, along with all the other pipelines and pipes across the U.S., I swear. But no, I think it's going to pick up, to be honest, because, I think we're all expecting some rate changes potentially this year. So I think it's going to pick up a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Fingers crossed.
Yes, especially for us lenders that do variable rates. I mean, for the most part, we need some help. Please.
Well, what's crazy
gods,
though?
help us.
I think those of us doing those crazy interest rates, though, I don't know that mine has changed as much as maybe some that are in the A-paper banks. I think theirs actually slowed down more so last year than ours did, because we're still getting them. People still need money, right?
People still need to buy businesses and buildings, and absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, hey, Talia, I wanted to share a story that happened to me this last week. So I needed my roof cleaned and gutters cleaned out. Okay. So I was, how Facebook, how it listens to you. Like if you don't think it does, then you're missing something. So I was telling my wife that, and of course, next thing you know, boop, there's an ad on Facebook that says, hey, we'll do this. And I'm like, for $2.99, we'll clean your roof and your gutters. And I'm like, well, that seems like a decent deal. Okay. So I kind of researched it and it seemed like a good deal. So sure, a small business in the area, like to help, let's do it. Okay. So he comes out and he wants to take a look at it. And so that's fine. So he looks around, he goes, okay, so it's going to be about $800. What? Your ad even shows a picture of you doing this on the roof for $2.99. What am I missing? And he's like, oh, no. That's only if you want me to blow off the roof and blow off the gutters. So just take a, air compressor or whatever. And I'm like, well, I need just a little bit more elbow grease up there. And so he goes, oh, well, then we have to do this and this and that. And I was like, again, the salesperson in me is thinking to myself, okay, I wonder how much this is really going to cost me. And so I kind of gave him a look and I'm like, that seems kind of high. And immediately he said, okay, how about 700? I didn't ask for I said it was high, but I never said that he should lower his price. And I'm like, well, and because I'm still trying to figure out this thing. And he goes, okay, well, how about 600? You did it again. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And so, next thing I know, he kind of he goes through and he talks to me about what he has to do and how many hours and how it's different. And I'm like, oh, that's the reason why. That makes more sense to me why it's $800. But since you're the sucker that already said 600, I'll do it for 600. And so we ended up doing that. But again, as a salesperson, I thought to myself, how many times do we say, hey, customer, our packaging fee is $2,500. Oh, I'll lower that to $1,000. Or how about our interest rates, prime plus, 2.5. Oh, I'll go prime 2.25, and you use your chip. Why? There's value that we provide, and this person provided, he just had to share it with me, and I probably would have paid the $800 for it. And so I really want to challenge SBA lenders out there to think about that. Do not jump on immediately lowering your price or adjusting your rate. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So, and again, I think a lot of greener BDOs kind of do that, but I just wanted to share that because that was definitely a kind of a good reminder for me.
Oh, I agree. It kind of goes hand in hand what we talked about last week, basically, too. A little bit. I mean, it's the upfront, whether it be the upfront of what your price really is, and then you let people know what the value is behind that price, which I think is what a lot of us do. That was kind
Yep.
of like my story, I guess, last week was,
Right.
yeah, I mean, somebody reached out. I wasn't gonna sit there and you know try to beat around the bush as far as what I could offer and what my bank did and what I at or I guess what I could or couldn't do. I basically just gave them the value of who I was. This is what it is. Um, there is no discount because I know my value. I know the value of my time. I know what it's going to take. And I think the more we each do that, it's also going to save time, kind of like last week's. It's going to save the time for that borrower, the bank, and the lender to not jump on something that you shouldn't, or yeah, decrease your value, man. Let's not decrease our value because we all have value in this industry for the borrowers, especially. Like I got that one, or what was it, the customer that reached out last week that basically just said, "Yeah, thanks for being upfront. Thanks for
That's it.
being the first one really to give me a straight answer. And if I ever come back to SB, I'll use you." That's what we need to do. That's the value in it, people. So yeah,
Yep.
good job.
Be an
Good job
educator.
for. I'm
Be
sorry.
be an educator, and that's
Yeah.
it. And I'll give a shameless plug to our friend Ray Drew, who had his sales ammo came out today. Which, if you don't, please make sure to subscribe that because there's lots of good little things on there. But you on there, he talks about making sure that you're giving information, and you're an educator, because that's really a big deal, especially within SBA.
Right. I think many, and like we've said, it's usually the newer ones are instead of giving the education, they're just trying to get the deal. And the more each of us educate these borrowers up front when they call, the better for all of us across the board. So
That's true.
yeah.
Well, let's jump into the SBA news. We had an SBA Connect call. It was it was shorter than normal. Were you on it, Tanya?
I was.
Okay. So they talked really briefly about the SBA still under a continuing resolution till February 2nd. Shock and awe. I don't think we'll have a lapse in funding, but unfortunately we have to talk about it because anything can happen. So and there's some things I think I've heard on the news that they're moving ahead a little bit quicker. So let's hope that. They went over the SBA form changes. We talked about that last week. So make sure to check out last week's episode about the new 1919. And then they talked about compliance codes. Yeah, baby,
Oh
compliance
boy.
codes. Woo! We got the new 818, the 819, and the 820. And I know my friend Tanya loves the numbers of
I hate
forms.
the numbers. Every time. Why do they have to do that? It reminds me of the Abbott and Costello skit, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like who's on first, what's on
That's
second.
right.
And then Costello keeps saying, well, who's on first? And Abbott's like, who? Well, I'm asking you. Well, who? Well, I'm asking. I swear it makes me think of that every time with all of our numbers.
Yeah, so we got the new there's a Sam's one for 818, a debt check that's 819, and 820 is Cavers. So just more numbers for all of us to remember. Hooray. They also went over 7A lending dollars were down for last year, which duh, you raise rates, that's what happens. Like that wasn't really news to me, but they shared that. And then, of course, I think the biggest thing that got me excited is the SBA is seeking comments to revise its size standard. And I would love to see an increase in size standard. And I know all of our BDO friends on here would like that as well, because that definitely gives us more opportunities. So let's move those numbers up.
Exactly. Well, and in the lending piece, what I found interesting is although the approved dollars were down, the actual number of deals approved were actually up. So
Small
what
loans,
that tells,
baby.
yeah, so what that tells me is, they're
Yep.
approving more, but it's smaller dollar amounts by a little bit. So yeah,
That's
so
what they've
that'll
been
be interesting to
preaching.
see what happens this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so what we want to do is just make sure that moving forward, we get your guys's thoughts, opinions, ideas, and you put them in the comments, because what we want to do is be able to really speak to what you guys are looking for us to speak to. That's what this is all about, is to help us all learn, and garner information from you guys too. So like Paul said, I think it would be really fun and cool if each of you that have had an experience such as what Paul shared, right? With either somebody decreasing their value and or somebody wanting to get you to decrease your value, put those in the comments. Give us the stories. We'd like to see what everybody else is doing out there, and use that for each of us to really, I guess, learn from each other and do better in this whole thing that we all call SBA lending.
That's right.
So yeah, so put those down in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And honestly, guys, hey, just keep watching. We're going to keep doing the best we can to give you the information. Stay warm because it's flipping cold out there, right? And we will see you all next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
See you later.